Now, when we find ourselves attached to these titles, we find ourselves connected to something called relationship guilt, whether that's a family dynamic, whether that is a lover, a friend, right? And so what happens here is that based on the title of the relationship, we feel in debt to these people. The reason being that we haven't overcome the ideal that this is just a simulation in which we've contracted each other to gain experiences out of our encounters, right? So whether that's a mother, a father, a brother, a sister, a husband, a child, right? It still applies. It doesn't change it, right? So it is our responsibility to awaken to this fucking monitoring spirit. It is our responsibility. Go away. It is our responsibility to awaken to this truth, right? And the way that we do that, it's again by forgiving it all. We first detach from all the titles, and then we first identify the spirits that were operating through these people, and that helps us detach from the titles. And then we go ahead and we forgive with that same understanding, and we pass no judgment, for they know not what they do, right? As spirits were operating through them. And so we detach from the titles, right? And so when we detach from these titles, what we'll find is that we are able to let go of the guilt. This is what I was getting to, right? Because I suffered from guilt all my life, right? Because I wanted to see the good in people. I wanted to be grateful for what they had done for me. I wanted to wear the rose-colored glasses, if that makes sense, right? And what I found was that once I was able to identify the spirits that were operating through these people, and then I anchored my reality in, hey, I chose these experiences, I chose these people. And instead of looking at the things that were done to me, and even the things that I had done as well, because just as people could be karmics in my life, people who are supposed to, come in and teach you a lesson, break you, betrayed you, and things like that. The same way, I too was a karmic for someone in their life, right? And so that allowed me to have a little bit of balance and anchor myself in the present of now, right? And so instead of looking at it like, why did my mother do this? Why was I not treated this way? I looked at it as like, what kept repeating here that I was supposed to learn, right? And so one way that you'll be able to identify that you're dealing with a karmic cycle, with a toxic cycle, is that it keeps repeating itself, right? And it'll repeat itself not only in that vessel, this avatar, but in other ones, right? So there's a lesson there that we're supposed to learn, right? And so that lesson sometimes comes from our parents. So if you find yourself dealing with certain behaviors with a parent, with a loved one, with a child, with a sibling, identify what keeps happening. It'll be something that continues to happen, And so what we do is that, because these people have these titles of mother, father, husband, child, right? We try to sugarcoat things for them because they have these titles, right? When in reality, what we're supposed to do is identify the pattern that's happening and choose to rise above it, right? Because what happens is that until you overcome that karmic cycle, you won't be able to move up to the next level in your soul's evolution. And the purpose of you being here is to have your soul evolve, right? And so when we identify the spirits that are operating through these people, and if we go back in time as well, right, and identify certain things, certain behaviors that often took place, we'll be able to see that these behaviors were common, that these things continuously happen, right? And so some of these people were unconsciously conscious, right? Because they knew that certain behaviors would affect you, but they chose to do them anyways, right? And then on the other hand, some people knew exactly what they were doing, and their goal was to have you become who they were, to have you go tit for tat with them, like, I did this, become vengeful, become angry, hateful towards them and towards others. Because usually what happens here is that their spirit cannot tolerate yours, and so that has nothing to do with you. Your role here is just to evolve, be able to identify it and evolve, forgive, not pass judgment, and move on, right? Because you have other experiences that you need to encounter. You have other souls that you have contracts with that you need to meet for the purpose of your soul's evolution, so that you can go on your path and on your journey, right? And so these things are not taught. Nobody teaches us about our soul evolution. Nobody teaches us about soul contracts, right? And so the way that so many things have been termed in different ways today, that all we can do is exercise our free will, because that we do have. We do have freedom of choice, and we're able to decide to not accept that as our reality, as that reality that was given, just because these people hold certain titles in our life, in this physical reality here. Identifying the spirits that were operating through these people will also help you release the guilt, and it will also help you identify those relationships that kept you on edge. If you're able to identify the relationships that kept you on edge, then you'll be able to overcome it more easier, because you have been able to identify the patterns that were going on there. Like it'll just be point blank, like, this continues to repeat over and over again. Like for me, I was able to say enough to certain things because I was at my ends with it, because it kept repeating over and over and over again, from like a very young age to like later on in my adult life. Like I kept going through the same thing, to the point that I already knew what was going to happen next, who was going to get involved. I already knew the whole trajectory of it, because how many times are you going to do the same thing over and over and over again? Right? And so we make excuses for certain people because we want to think that they're good people. Right? And so it's not for us to judge, but it is for us to take responsibility and exercise our free will and choose a different reality for ourselves. Just because something was given to us as this is it, like, this is your mom, this is your dad, this is your brother, this is your sister, this is your siblings, right? If they hurt you more than love you, right? If it's a constant battle, then self-preservation here is key, right? We don't need to wait to for things to get really bad. We just, self-preservation. Okay? I'll be back later. Have a good day.